Well, good afternoon, everybody. You know, if it's not 2 to 6 time slot, you wouldn't get any breaking news. But we got it again as we start the show because the Eagles have just hired a head coach. The Eagles have hired Nick Sirianni, who is the the assistant coach for the Indianapolis Colts with experience in the league. A young coach, 39 years old. Everybody thought the front runner was McDaniels, and Staley was involved in there. Here they go with Sirianni. So we'll spend the day trying to find out why Sirianni was the best candidate. It frankly, for me, kind of comes out of nowhere. But anyway, welcome to the Mike Missanelli show. The interview, he had 2 interviews with him. They must have liked a lot of what they heard. I had a long interview with Josh McDaniels, and it looks like he was going to be the front runner. But let's just break it down here. I don't think this guy has any warts, right? Here are the top 2 candidates we're going to talk about today. This is going to be the theme of the show. Was McDaniels is not a well-liked guy, and he comes off as really arrogant. Like, that was the one thing against him, and, of course, what he did in the past, whether he would have been trustable or not. And then Staley, the word was coming out about Staley, which was really peculiar to me, is that and it really kind of ticked me off, that the Eagles, consider him just an afterthought candidate because he was a guy who wasn't pleased with the way they coddled Carson Wentz. So if he was going to get the job, he wasn't going to coddle Carson Wentz, and that probably would have been unacceptable to both Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie. So Sirianni gets the job. I don't know if anybody taking odds at the start of this whole thing would have picked Sirianni to be the head coach of the football team. But like I said, I can't say it's a good hire or a bad hire. I don't know enough about the guy. I haven't seen him interact play after play in his career in the NFL. And what I've said is that in their due diligence and these guys trying to find a fact-finding mission about these guys, he must have impressed them to the point where they think he's going to be the guy to move forward. And I can't sit here and say that it's a bad thing. So we'll just have to – again, the problem with this is we trust, or at least we had no choice but to trust because they're the ones going through the process of talking to these people. But the trust factor that we have for the regime is bad. So I don't know how to reconcile that other than to say, well, we'll see what happens. He's the offensive coordinator for the Colts. I guess the Colts were okay offensively this year. He did some good things with Phillip Rivers. He's been under Frank Reich. Frank Reich probably knows how to touch Carson Wentz, and he probably has informed Nick Sirianni how to touch him. So there you go. Sirianni has been with Reich not only in Indianapolis but in San Diego. So in hiring this guy, maybe they're thinking they're getting Reich. I don't know. Tyrone.
What they say about him is he has some of Doug's qualities in that players like him, but they said he has more fire than Doug. Everybody said that he has a fastball that Doug doesn't. Doug had a lot of G golly in him. This guy doesn't have a G golly, but players seem to really like him, and that seems to be something that's important. Now, 2 hires in a row for the Eagles, and I'll buy that. Here's the truth of the matter, though. If you can't, I believe they're going to try to keep Carson Wentz. Whether we agree with it or not, I'm trying to just deal solely in reality. If he can fix Carson Wentz, it's a good hire because you can figure out other stuff. We know that the roster's not going to be great right away. So first year, fix Carson Wentz. Second year, try to win. That would probably be the plan in my mind right now with the Eagles. If he can fix Carson Wentz, it's a good problem. It's a good hire. If he can't, it's not a good hire.
Yeah,
and I don't know whether he can or he can't.
I mean, he's really an unknown, and so like it's hard to form an opinion one way or the other. In relation to the other guys that could have been hired, I think it's fair to discuss that. Now, McDaniels has had some success with quarterbacks and offensive systems. Eric Bieniemy, who everybody thought was going to be the number 1 candidate, we were talking about this before the show, and here's the theory. The theory is that Andy Reid probably steered him away or did not really endorse this job for him. He thinks he would probably end up better in a better situation because if he's not going to get the control he needs and he's going to fail, then he's going to be a failed coach who probably isn't going to get another chance. So through that, I'm thinking that maybe Bieniemy gave them the vibe that he wasn't really interested. So instead of waiting to talk to him, they decided to act now. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, I think it does. They, for whatever reason, we'll find out if it's right, they want to have control on the coaching staff, and I would imagine they still want to have control on who plays on Sundays, which is just ridiculous. But that's what they want. Therefore, they have to find a coach who's going to accept that, and not every coach is going to accept that. That's why the college guys quickly faded away and said, "Nah, I'm good at Ohio State. No, I'm good at Oklahoma." And the list started to get they added more names, but the guys we thought in the beginning, as you mentioned, because Sirianni was not on the list in the beginning.
Yes.
All those guys kind of fell away. I think some of that had to do with the structure that the Eagles want to have. And therefore, if he'll accept the structure and he's a player's coach but has fire and can fix Wentz, then good, I'm good with it. But
so this is all about Wentz.
I don't want it to be, but it is.
It is. They hired a head coach based on Wentz, which is, I got to be honest with you, I don't think it's going to sit very well with people.
Shouldn't.
Because people are tired of everybody enabling Carson Wentz. So you got to do this for Carson, you got to do that for Carson. So basically, the Eagles, they couldn't hire Frank Reich, the guy who really did have success with Wentz. So they hired Frank Reich light, like the guy who was the second. They couldn't pull Reich away from the Colts, so they got the 1A Reich.
Young guy, I have no problem with. A lot of young coaches are doing well now. Green Bay, for example, young coach, he's doing well. I have no issue with that part of it. I just don't care for the Eagles' approach. Like, it's really, for me, this isn't Wentz. It is Wentz, but it's really the Eagles' approach with Wentz and how it affects us. Because I don't think Wentz has said a word. Yeah, it's the way the Eagles handle Wentz is affecting the hire, which affects my thinking about it, and I don't trust the Eagles' thinking.
Yeah, there was one thing that I was really going to tie into today before this hit us, right at 2:00, that they actually hired a head coach. There was a story that I was reading about why they weren't enamored with Deuce Staley, and it rubbed me the wrong way. It's like, okay, enough of the enabling. They don't want Deuce Staley because they didn't appreciate him not appreciating how they coddled him. And I'm going, all right, really? That's the reason? It's all about this one guy? And so Deuce Staley wouldn't have been a good, I don't know if he would have been a good head coach or not, but the rationale is they weren't interested because it was going to be too tough on Wentz, because he didn't think they were tough on him enough last year, and that was why he wasn't a candidate. To me, that's upsetting to me. I don't like that rationale.
I completely agree. I don't care how you treat Carson Wentz anymore. I need you to fix him. However you need to treat him to fix him, you treat him. I don't care if you got to treat him like dirt. At this point, he just stunk. And this is a guy who I don't think Wentz forgot how to play football. I think Doug Peterson's ineptitude played a role in Wentz being bad. But Wentz is responsible for Wentz. Therefore, treat Wentz however you got to treat Wentz to get it done. I don't care. I don't care if you got to be mean to him. He just was the worst quarterback in the league.
Yeah, that doesn't fly anymore for me either. So, all right, so just to review, they hired Nick Sirianni. The two guys that looked like they were the favorites was Josh McDaniels and Deuce Staley. So here's what they were saying about Josh McDaniels. He doesn't have an ability to really connect with people on a human level. He's very arrogant. Well, there goes that emotional intelligence. That concept went right out the window with that. And the NFL executive goes on to say great head coaches are extremely confident, but there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance, and Josh crosses it. All right, so I don't know how you feel about that. They may have been something not in his favor. And according to the Staley thing, the Eagles continued to regard him as little more than a last resort, even though he was still a name being mentioned. And according to another team source, Staley didn't care for the way the organization babied Wentz. Laurie and Roseman both may be concerned that if Staley was the head coach, any chance of straightening out Wentz would go out the window. Again, that bothers me. Because that's like Wentz defining the whole thing.
Well, you know what?
By being high maintenance.
Unless.
The more I'm thinking about it now, this hire, he probably has been told by Frank how to deal with Carson and went in there and sold that to them.
Yeah, there's no question.
That has to. That's it.
If the guy has a half a brain, that surely would have been his strategy going into those interviews.
Well, and it was a 2-day interview too.
Yeah.
So
we found that out.
Yeah, so they were like, let's hear more for your plans with Carson because that's what we have to fix right now.
Now, I could halfway defend the Eagles if it's one thing. If the Eagles have decided, due to the cap, they got to keep Carson Wentz, and they tell Deuce that, and Deuce is like, I don't like him, I want him going, well, then I can't hire Deuce.
Right, exactly.
If Deuce just said, hey, man, I got to coach him tougher, completely fine. But if Deuce said, well, hold up, I got to have Hurts, this guy's got to be going, well, unfortunately, Deuce, I can't hire you because I'm not comfortable with the $34 million cap hit. Your job is to fix him, not to get rid of him. So I would need to hear, you understand what I'm saying? Like, how Deuce said
I think that may have been, if Deuce did that, probably would have been foolish because at the end of the day, once he's got the head coaching job, he can do whatever he wants with it. Like, I wouldn't take myself out of a coaching job by saying that to them.
But he might have felt comfortable. I've been here long enough. You've seen it. You know I can't coach this guy. And then I go, well, hold on. I can't hire you because one of the prerequisites is you have to fix this guy. I'm just wondering how Deuce approached it.
I got it. All right, so obviously, listen, we're going to talk Sixers a lot today because of what Embiid did last night. Carried the Sixers to a great win. That was a great win last night. And you can say all you want about Tatum not being there. They had to make plays at the end to win that game, and they had to make defensive stops. They get some rebounds. They did everything they needed to do to close that game out. So that's a good thing. And you saw that last night. And for a little bit, it made you take away, like, last night, the way they won that game, the way Embiid played, took the focus away from at least my Ben Simmons angst, even though he had 0 on the board for a long time in that game. So at the end, the way they won it over a good team like that overpowered the Ben thing. So we'll talk about that as well. Here's how you get in: 610-632-0975. Hembo will be on today, so Hembo will probably have some little last-minute tidbits on the new Philadelphia Eagles head coach, Nick Sirianni, the offensive coordinator with the Indianapolis Colts.
Hembo may not be on.
Oh, okay. All right.
Due to these quick changes.
Okay, so he's got to do some,
Yeah, well, I'll let you know.
Work.
This obviously just happened.
Yeah, it just happened, and I don't know. How do you feel about it? You might not feel anything about it, but let's discuss the direction they're now going in with a 39-year-old guy who's kind of an unknown, and so was Andy Reid when they hired him. So that shouldn't be enough to deter you.
Mike Missanelli, afternoons from 2 to 6 on 97.5 The Fanatic, Philadelphia.